All right, quick story. One day I was making my prospecting calls, and this was when I first started. I talked to this one guy and he cussed me up one side and down the other. Now, when I say that he cussed me out, he said things that I can never even repeat because they were so vulgar, it was crazy. Now, here's the thing. He was right to do so. I deserved every single word because for years, my life, that's what I thought prospecting was. People hung up on me. People were super angry that I called them. I told myself that this was just part of the job. This is just how prospecting and cold calling is, right? Prospects are going to be rude. You just have to match their energy. You can't let them walk on you. You have to be the authority, right? I was very, very wrong. What those people were saying to me on those calls wasn't the rude part. What I was doing on those calls was actually what was very rude. Now today I'm going to tell you the truth about those years and the exact shift that actually turned the calls that I dreaded every single day into calls I actually look forward to now. All right, I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable with you as I tell you the story. I'm going to take you back to really where I started because I think that you might have a story in your mind about why you cannot prospect. And I want to speak to that directly because when I got into the business, I did exactly what I was told by all the gurus. I got the script. I learned the lines and I went to work trying to convince people to list their homes with me. I would get somebody on the phone and I would go straight into it, right? Here's who I am. Here's who I work with. Here's why you should sell. Here's why your property should have sold. And here's why you should use me, right? I pushed, I handled objections. I tried to close them. Now, did it work? Sometimes, right? A blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, like they say. So it would work sometimes, but the majority of the time, people hated it. They could hear it coming from a mile away. The second they realized that I was an agent trying to talk them into something, the walls went up. Some were very short with me. Some were very rude with me. And more so, they cussed me out and hung up. And I went to bed at night feeling like garbage. I was bothering people for a living. Like that's how I made a living. And the whole thing made me feel just gross and salesy. Maybe I wasn't built for it. I had those thoughts. And here's what I did with that feeling, which is probably what you're doing right now. I decided that the problem was that I was too soft. So I tried to get tougher, right? I pushed even harder. I got more aggressive with my scripts. And I told myself the people who are gonna win in this are the ones who do not take no for an answer. I'm sure you've heard that before and felt that yourself. Maybe I should have kept pushing. Well, did it get better? No, it got worse because I was treating a symptom of a disease that I did not even have. So here's the thing that I eventually understood, and it changed everything. The reason those calls felt so bad was because I was literally setting myself up for failure from the very first second. I was trying to convince them, and you cannot convince anyone of anything. People only do things for their own reasons, never for yours. Remember that. So the harder that I push for my reasons, the harder they push back with theirs. I was literally manufacturing the resistance that I was trying to fight on every single one of those calls. Think about a pendulum for a second. The harder you push one way, the harder it swings back the opposite. Selling is exactly the same. Every single time I made my case for why they should sell or why they should hire me, I was handling them, the other side of the argument, and I was making them defend why they shouldn't sell and why they shouldn't hire me. That's why they got so defensive. That's why they got angry. I was not even having a conversation. I was running them over and calling it sales. So the rude part was never the prospect. The rude part was that I walked into a stranger's day, their control. Yes, I was trying to get an appointment. I was trying to get a commission. And people can feel when you're trying to take, not serve. They felt it in the first 10 seconds, and then everything in them starts to pull away from you. That is why that's called salesy. It's not a tone of voice. It's an energy of a person who needs something from you and is going to keep talking until they get that thing. That's salesy. Now, once I saw that, I could not unsee it because the problem was never the leads were bad. The problem was that I was bad. So I changed this one thing, and it was not a better script. It was who I decided to be on the call. All right. I stopped trying to convince anyone of anything. I made my only job on that call find the truth. Does this person actually have a reason to move or not? And if they do, maybe I can serve them. If they don't, I get to be the one agent who didn't waste their entire afternoon chasing. Either way, I'm not pushing. So now I get on the phone and I'm honest right away. I tell them I am an agent before they even have to to guess. I ask permission instead of barreling in. If they don't want to speak to me, they don't have to. And then I just get curious. I ask real questions and I actually listen to those answers instead of just waiting to go back to my script, waiting to pitch something. When I started doing this, listen to me, something crazy happened. The getting cussed out literally stopped. Not because I found some magical words, but because I wasn't pushing anymore. So there was literally nothing to push back against. The pendulum, it stopped swinging the wrong way. This is the whole heart of why I built this the way I did. I believe we are called to serve people, not to be served. Mark 10:43 says this, whoever wants to be a leader must first be a servant. I had it completely backwards for years. I was trying to lead with a pitch when I was supposed to be serving with a purpose. And so I'm sure that you can relate to that. The strange part is the moment that I genuinely stopped needing the deal and I actually started caring about the person, I started to get more listings and deals than I could even handle at the time. Now let me make sure you get this. Serving people is not the soft, naive version of sales. It is the most effective thing that I've ever done. And it lets you actually sleep well at night. Let me make this real. I don't want you to think this is just some cool made up idea, all right? The people that are most likely to cuss you out on the phones are like, for sell by owners, expires, right? They're getting hammered with calls every single day, nonstop. They think every agent's a vulture. They are primed to be hostile from the very moment that they say hello. I've listed and sold over 1,000 homes. Majority have been those two exact lead types, FSBOs and expireds. And I promise you, I did not do it by being more aggressive than the other agents. I did it the exact opposite. I stopped selling them and I started serving them. I became the one agent who was not trying to talk them into anything. That is the entire reason they actually listed with me. So hear me when I say this, especially if you're a person who got into this business because you actually want to help people, okay? And the idea of being pushy makes your skin crawl. It feels horrible. That instinct is not a weakness. I want to be very clear. It is the single best thing you have going for you in sales. You were never bad at prospecting because you gave up too easy. You simply just learned a version that is built on pushing, on convincing, and your conscience was right to reject it. You do not have to choose between being a good person and being good at sales. The good person version is better performing than the pushy salesman. I had to learn this the hard way over years of getting cussed out so that you do not have to. So here's what I want you to take from this, okay? Number one, cold calling is not rude. Trying to convince somebody is, all right? So if your calls feel gross, it's almost never the calling. It's usually how you're calling. Number two, you cannot convince anyone of anything. People only act on their own reasons. So stop making your case and start finding their truth. Number three, the instinct that makes you hate feeling salesy is not a flaw to push past. It is the exact thing that makes people trust you. Serve them. Don't sell them. This whole shift rests on the one idea that sounds crazy the first time you hear it. You genuinely cannot convince anybody to list with you, no matter how good your pitch is. So watch this next video right here below where I break down exactly why that's true and what to do instead. All right, God bless, and I will see you on the next one.